For those who've heard me at these tech, in fact, other events as well, you'll know that I'm a past master at oversharing. And so, at risk of oversharing again, my kids have not been very well recently. I've got way too many kids. But they've not been very well recently, and it's meant that we've spent a decent amount of time with the incredible, amazing National Health Service. Absolutely fantastic. But I'm still left sort of scratching my head a little bit when, for the 5th time, I fill in a form giving very similar information to the information I gave the last time, on paper with a pen. And I actually had a chat with the person I handed it to, so, you know, what are you going to do with this? And she said, well, I'm going to read your handwriting, and I'm going to put all of that information into a database. There is such an opportunity for AI, for technology more broadly. There is such an opportunity. And if we can solve this in the NHS, if we can solve this in one part of our citizen services, our public service delivery, imagine what we can do with every other part. I mean, the NHS is in many respects the most important, but it's also the most complex. If we can solve it there, we can solve it anywhere. And the prize, really, for the UK is not in many respects the country that regulates the technology, regulates the AI fastest. It's the country that takes advantage of the opportunity that AI presents the fastest. And so, to give us an insight into what the Labour Party would do if in government to seize that opportunity for the economy from AI, could you please put your hands together to the Shadow Digital Minister, Peter Kyle.
Well, Hugh owes me already because he told me to run down the steps because the applause had finished by the time I got 3 steps down. So I did warn him that he underestimated my popularity. So thank you very much for proving me right. And thank you very much to techUK for inviting me here today. It's great to have the chance to speak to so many of you and set out some of the direction of travel that you can expect should Labour win the general election expected either in weeks or in a few months. The technology sector contributes massively to Britain's economy. techUK's own members employ 1 million people and turns over more than £320 billion. Now, you know that the prospectus that we will be going to the electorate with at the next election is based on 5 missions, the primary mission being getting economic growth into the economy. 4 other missions, and the key thing about those 4 other missions, they are cross-sectoral. For the first time ever, a party of opposition going into an election is going forward with a prospectus that cuts right across the government sector. We're not confining ourselves to the departmental barriers that every other prospectus for a government in the past has been constrained by. It is truly radical. It's not picked up as much as I would sometimes expect it to be. And the reason why I'm saying this and pointing out to you at the beginning of my remarks is because each of you as innovators understands the challenges that lie ahead don't confine themselves to each government department. Very often they cross them. And you as innovators understand that the innovations coming through, emerging into our economy and society, themselves cross departmental barriers. So therefore, why not have a government that reflects that from the outset? And that's what you'll have with Labour. The Labour Party has a mission of achieving the highest economic growth in the G7. There is lots to learn from an industry which has an annual growth rate of 10%, and that's your sector, something to be proud of. A Labour government will be one of prosperity through partnership. It is only by working with and backing our businesses that we will be able to fix our broken public services. It was very timely to read the results of the techUK survey, which has been released during this conference. The themes are familiar from the weekly trips that I've taken around the country to see innovation in action. I've loved seeing innovation, its development, commercialisation, growth, and the positive impact on people and our economy firsthand since I was appointed to this role. In Sedgefield, I saw the work of companies such as Chromec and Pragmatic that they're doing with semiconductors. This will open up new uses and new applications. And launching Labour's Life Sciences Sector Plan in Stevenage, I met biotech companies who will transform the care that we receive using new treatments and new technologies. It's only when an active government working with an industry that we can grasp these great opportunities of our era. It is clear that artificial intelligence is one of these new opportunities. I've also seen the transformative effect that it could have on our public services. In Huddersfield, I saw AI developed in a radiography department in an NHS hospital in a truly breathtaking way. The average time for patients to get results from scans was reduced from 1 week to just 2 days. Over a quarter of the workload was automatically removed from the radiologists, as the model can identify clear scans immediately. So for patients, it removes a large amount of stress and anxiety. The productivity gains this technology offers is enormous, but it needs a government willing to shape its direction to make sure that it has everyday benefits for the public services and businesses. And we have to take people with us and answer questions about what it means for work and our broader society. Because at the moment, our economy is underperforming when it comes to technological adoption. We have not returned to the same rate of productivity growth which we had before the financial crisis 15 years ago. If our productivity growth is increased by 0.5 percentage point, then the OBR has stated that the headroom in the 5th year of their forecast increases to £72 billion. Tantalisingly, the OBR said that widespread adoption of AI could credibly result in this productivity gain, an enormous prize which no fiscally responsible government can ignore. But the fact that we're talking about potential and not reality points to a government that is currently ignoring this fact. So, I don't want any of you to leave this room without fully realising the scale of our ambitions in this area. If there is 0.5% productivity growth out there as a result of currently available digital technology, by hook or by crook, I will deliver it. Because businesses, its workers, and our families around the country, our economy and its future investment in public services all depends on it. Now, I'm glad to see this same desire for tech adoption across the economy is shared by this conference. One of the priorities techUK has set out for a new government, should it happen, would be to open opportunities of the digital economy for everyone. This is a task that the Labour Party will work on relentlessly. People in this room will be early adopters of AI, but it is only by making AI an everyday tool for businesses of all sizes in every sector that we can unleash it fully for our economy. That's why I want to set out a different approach to AI than the one currently used by the current government. The government carries out regular polls of public attitudes to data and AI. They've done this since 2021, so there is enough data now to see a trend. The most recent polls make for sober reading. The proportion of those who expect AI to have a negative impact on society has increased by 5 percentage points since the year before. And the single word that best captures their feelings about AI was scary, which has also got more negative since just last year. Levels of pessimism are getting worse as AI becomes more widespread. That should set off alarm bells for anyone who wants this technology to be adopted everywhere. When you dig into the results of the government's research into this, by far the biggest fear that people have is that AI will take people's jobs. This is a common feature among polling research. It is inexplicable, then, to me, that the Deputy Prime Minister is happy saying that the main benefit of AI will be that it allows him to cut civil servant jobs. But when the public read headlines such as "Embracing AI is the only way to cut jobs," coming from the Deputy Prime Minister, it is not surprising that pessimism amongst the general public is getting worse. And pessimism will lead to less adoption as other countries race ahead with adopting AI across their economies. The Labour Party is hopeful about this new technology, and we want to use the government to show the benefits of AI instead of using it to reinforce their fears. It can be done. In Huddersfield, the radiographers I talked to said that AI had enhanced their jobs instead of replacing them. It allowed them to spend more time looking at complicated scans which required human judgment. Productivity rose by 20%. Radiographers were upskilled and told me how much more they were enjoying their work. AI has the potential to benefit workers, their employers, our country as a whole, but only if we make it so. It will not happen by accident. Labour will make sure that AI plays a part in delivering on our missions, and that there is a clear coherence about what we want AI to achieve in the UK. We want to use AI as a tool in pursuit of our missions. This means supporting the public and private sectors to innovate, take risks, and find new ways of doing things. That's why I can confirm that the Labour Party are already working on an AI strategy. This strategy will look at the deployment and the uptake of AI technology in the public and private sectors. The Labour Party sees building public trust as essential to wider adoption of AI. Transparency about how the government itself uses AI will be key and a key part of our approach. I'm going to talk about the government's algorithmic transparency recording standards. And this is the only conference I can ever say those words without causing a stampede to the exit door, so I'm going to make the most of it. So the public has a democratic right to explanation and information about how the government makes its decisions. The recording standard is supposed to be a public repository of all different algorithmic tools used across government and an explanation of what they do. It was developed to be accessible to people who are not experts in machine learning. It has been endorsed by the Data Standards Authority and should have been in use since January 2023. The Generative AI Framework for Civil Servants clearly says that it should be used by departments. And yet, if you look at the gov.uk page, which hosts public reports, you can see that there has only been one transparency report this year and none the year before. This is plain unacceptable. We know that AI is being used in a range of ways across departments. The AI incubator in the Cabinet Office alone has 10 pilot programs for AI tools. These include using AI to flag fraud and error in pharmacies and using AI algorithms to help move asylum claimants out of hotels more efficiently. There is a clear need for government to provide more information about its use of AI in such sensitive areas. How are we supposed to judge if these programs are a success and should be more widely used if there is no clear monitoring and evaluation of them? It leads to mistrust, and if it looks like the government is trying to hide how AI is being used, that is bad for trust across the country. And mistrust will become unease and stop the growth that we need to see with AI. To be clear, what I'm not saying is that government should stop using AI, quite the opposite. But transparency is important, especially in government on sensitive issues like this. Opposition needs it to perform its constitutional role of holding government to account. Citizens need it to know what the state is doing on its behalf, on their behalf. And we need it in order to foster trust between government and the people it exists to serve. A Labour government will commit to transparency over the use of AI. We want to be at the forefront of using AI to power our missions. And alongside transparency, people need to know that safety will be baked in to how AI is used. This is why we have already announced that we will require safety reports from the small amount of companies who are developing frontier AI. It is only by building trust in this technology that we can use it to underpin our missions and success as a country. From getting the NHS back on its feet to breaking down the barriers of opportunity, there will be AI tools that can help with all of them. Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, has already set out a plan for a Fit for the Future fund, which will bring technology such as AI into the NHS. I saw how AI could transform our clean power mission for myself on a recent visit to Cambridge University. Hearing how AI is already being used to reduce pollution from concrete plants or monitor heat losses in homes, it just opened my eyes to the possibilities that are out there. And that's just the applications that are already happening. As AI models become more accessible, there will be a constant pipeline of new uses. The speed of this innovation will outpace and challenge many of the ways that the British state currently works. While Britain is a great place to do business, it will not remain so with a government that does not listen to its leading industries, such as the tech sector. One of the main concerns that I've heard is that regulation needs to keep pace with the cross-cutting nature of the emerging technologies. We have brilliant regulators in this country, which should give us a competitive edge. But too often at the moment, innovators face delays navigating the system. Labour's plan for a regulatory innovation office were born out of these concerns that I heard from businesses about their experiences of the regulatory landscape. Businesses need fast, clear, and consistent regulation. Our plan for a new pro-innovation body within government, which can give strategic steers aligned with our industrial strategy. It will make sure that regulation does not unnecessarily slow down innovation. We will set and monitor targets for regulatory approval times, benchmarks against international competitors, and strengthen the work done by the Regulatory Horizons Council. The Labour Party supports the creation of the new department, DSIT. We've been looking closely at Lord Willett's review of DSIT business cases and approvals processes. It is remarkable to hear that it can take over 2.5 years to execute an R&D programme in DSIT currently. A Labour government will significantly shorten this time. Because for us, making DSIT work is going to be crucial to delivering our missions across government. And making DSIT work will need partnerships with the tech industry and the government, between the tech industry and the government, which supports your ambitions to grow on the one hand and to harness the fruits of your innovation to better serve our nation, economy, and citizens on the other. We are developing plans to make sure that AI works for everyone. That means putting everyday AI in the hands of small business owners, as well as supporting the next 10 deep minds through their start-up and scale-up here within the UK. It means acknowledging and addressing people's worries about AI. It means ensuring that the UK public sector is a leader in responsibly, transparently applying AI. Rather than veering from extreme risk to extreme optimism, as the government is currently doing. Our approach will be practical, considered, and it will be long-term. We're consulting widely as we develop on this strategy with British and international tech companies, startups, venture capitalists, civil society, small businesses, academics, and trade unions. This is how we will grow the economy, transform opportunity, and give everyone a stake in our country's success. Thank you very much. Are we going up here?
There's going to be a slight pause while the Shadow Minister gets mic'd up, and then we're going to sit here and have a little conversation. But could I encourage you to think about some questions that you might want to put to Mr. Kyle, and I will come to you shortly. Thank you. It's a fascinating trot through what seems to be like a pretty pro-technology Labour Party.
It is. We're hopeful. Look, when you speak to people up and down the country, there is a sense of hopelessness at the moment. I'm not talking about in this room and people who are entrepreneurs and innovators, but up in communities up and down the country. And it's very hard with the state of the economy, public services, and what people see on the news every day to generate hope. But we are hopeful because of the contents of the speech that I just outlined, that we can turn a corner. We have 5 missions that will drive the next government if we win the election. But the primary one of those is economic growth, because we know every other one of them, the success of every other one of them depends on it. That OBR stat that I gave in there, showing that there is the current potential for adding 0.5% on productivity, which would deliver within 5 years £73 billion worth of fiscal headroom for the government, for the Treasury, the Exchequer. That exhilarates me, because my daily task is, how do I go and get it? But I also think, because I'm the shadow, what would I feel if I was the Secretary of State and I saw that statistic and we're not getting it, we're not fulfilling that potential? Well, I meet every day people who are innovating out there, who are setting businesses up there, who sometimes knocking their heads against ceilings which shouldn't exist. And me and my team, we're just relentlessly seeing where those ceilings are and trying to come up with ideas that, should we get this golden opportunity to enter government, how we can just smash them down.
But the statistics you also shared about the level of concern that the general public has with technology, they're very worrying. And you set out a few ideas, but broadly, how do you think we're going to tackle that? Because that's a collective challenge and a collective issue to address.
We've got to get a grip on safety. And this isn't just online safety. We live in an era, and look, I'm here as a party politician, so forgive me, but we live in an era where women and girls don't feel safe outside after dark, where parents don't feel their kids are safe online, and lots of other safety issues as well. We have lost grip of safety. Now, it is very difficult for me, because you saw how hopeful I am if we get this right, how much we want to grasp this opportunity to transform our economy and public services and lots more besides. But when I do TV interviews, I did Laura Kuenssberg on Sunday morning a few weeks ago, and in the 10 minutes that I was interviewed, it was 100% about safety. So until we can reassure the public, it would have been absurd for me to suddenly pivot towards a hopeful set of opportunities in the future, because of the context that the questions were being put. So until we actually show that safety will be baked in to everything we do, whether it is physical safety on the street or whether it is online safety for people, and until we have a partnership approach with some of the people who are the companies that are developing this technology, until there is a consequence for exploiting our society and economy in terms of creating harm and not accepting responsibility for it, then we're not going to be able to get a population which is comfortable with the direction of travel. That is the government's job. But when it comes to use and harnessing opportunities of AI, well, that's going to be a partnership between everyone in this room and government. Government can't do growth to you. Similarly, you can't do it unless we get what we do right in terms of regulation, legislation, and the way that we talk and speak about your sector. But if we are in sync together, just like some of the great social changes that I would point to in the last Labour government, where working with civil society and working with government in a really constructive way, we led the public on very, very profound journeys on gay rights, on tackling poverty around the world and international development. We did this through partnerships. Well, I see that same kind of partnership potential emerging right now, because we have to reassure people, but we have to reassure that this is the sort of thing that government does in its sleep, so that when it's awake, it is out there harnessing all the opportunities for the benefit of society and our country and our economy.
So there's lots of work to do.
Yeah.
So picture the scene, okay? Maybe it's a lovely spring day. Maybe it's Halloween. It's the day after the election.
If you're talking about the day after the election, I won't know what the weather's like, because I'll be, but if we win it.
Day after the election,
Or
and
lose it.
you walk into your department, and you sit down at your ministerial desk, and you say, right, what am I going to tackle first? What's your answer?
Well, the truth is actually, I'd love to say to you a couple of pithy things here, but the truth is that we have a programme of government that we've worked up in recent years, and it's very detailed. But there will be a significant change of direction. So don't forget that this job, yes, this is a tech conference, but this role also covers life sciences, the research side of universities. The first thing that will end is the war on universities that we see at the moment. We see it playing out in a very profound way between the Secretary of State and some couple of academics at the moment. But we hear the Prime Minister standing up and talking about Mickey Mouse courses and so forth. Well, this is pulling the rug from underneath the pipeline of skills that we need and the excitement and talent that we need to develop through our higher education system. When it comes to the sector, the tech sector, I think you will see a shift from real short-termism and a kind of trying to, how do I say this in a way that's friendly? At the moment, I think we see a lack of focus in the way government is, or DSIT. Government is using DSIT and its financial financial flows into various sectors. Government doesn't have currently an industrial strategy. Firstly, they came into power and they banned the use, George Osborne banned the use of the term industrial strategy. Then we went to Theresa May, who named a department after it. Then we scrapped that and moved to a sort of David Willett's 8-point plan, 8 priorities. So we've shifted so rapidly that actually government is facing now, as a consequence of this scorched earth approach, facing in lots of different directions. If we win the election, we will have an industrial strategy. It will set out very clear priorities over a 10-year decade of national renewal. No party has ever gone to the electorate before with a 10-year programme, ever. And I'm surprised that we haven't been more challenged on it, because it does sound a bit presumptuous going towards us saying that we're going to do this over 2 terms. But I feel very passionately about it, because it's just honest with businesses and people public servants and people and citizens, that the problems facing our country cannot be fixed overnight. They cannot be fixed, some of them, in one cycle, in one parliamentary cycle, in terms of fully exploiting the potential we have as a country. So what we will do is set out a 10-year programme of renewal. We will, of course, have short-term measures. We will come in on day one with a set of very clear expectations from civil servants. We will come with a very clear set of things that we can do together as partners. But the key thing you'll have is you will know the direction of travel for a 10-year programme, and we will have over that period a set of policies that will form chapter headings or milestones right into the distance. That includes, in some cases, 10-year funding programmes from DSIT funding bodies itself. And around those, we can build the foundations for which will catapult our economy in certain key priority areas right into the future, and investors, innovators, entrepreneurs, and public servants will all be able to work together going into the long term. And you cannot find a more profound change between that approach to governing than the current one we have at the moment, where we've had 10 science ministers in 8 years.
Yeah. So my last question before I come to the audience, and so please prepare your questions. You've set out some ways in which a Labour government would put AI, put technology to work in service of the economy, in service of the public sector. But there are some systemic issues as well that need to be addressed. I mean, systemic issues like the skills across the economy more broadly, but tech skills in particular. But also, how do we attract more women into the sector? What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, thanks for asking a man. A conversation with 2 men.
Well,
about how you get
2
more
men
women
on the panel, yeah.
into the economy. It might be comments into the sector. It's something that I think of a lot. Equality matters to me, and I've campaigned on various equality issues for quite a long time. And when I go for all these roundtables and stakeholder events and the rest of it, you could count on one hand the time that the rooms that I'm in are fully diverse in a way that fully represents the makeup of our country. So when you look back to the first intervention I made since I was appointed, which was in September, a few weeks later I spoke on the conference floor of conference for the Labour conference, and I took the whole speech to talk about how this, I believe, is the progressive cause of our time. Currently, technology is, the people developing technology come from too limited a background, geographic, socioeconomic background, and also lots of other areas as well in terms of sex and ethnicity. It means that the technology that comes out the other side is intuitive for some people, but it's not intuitive for others from certain backgrounds, and that's not right. The skills are being sucked up geographically from a couple of key areas, but not actually around the whole country. The wealth that is produced and the concentration of wealth that's being produced of it is also benefiting too limited an area and group of people. So I believe that this is absolutely the progressive cause of our time. And if we get this right, it could absolutely turbocharge social mobility. It could turbocharge the challenges that are splitting communities at the moment and pitting them against. It could play a crucial role in the so-called levelling up. This again can only come if we have a government that bakes this into every single conversation it's having with its stakeholders and those people who want to invest in our country, the way we use public money in a smart way, the way we build partnerships through funding but also regulation and other incentives that government has. But anyone that's ever worked on equality issues will know this stuff just does not happen by accident. And it only happens if it's on the agenda, if it's part of every conversation that you have, both formal ones, legislative ones, but also just the way that government transacts its business daily. And with a Labour government, it will.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to come to the audience now. I think there's someone with a mic. There's a question over here. There's a hand raised here. There's another one a little bit further back. Yeah.
Hi, Vincent Manicourt from Politico. You spoke about bringing people along, building trust in AI, and one of the biggest things that people fear is AI taking their jobs. I know the techUK is working on an AI bill that directly addresses AI in the workplace. I'm wondering if you're willing to give Labour's backing to that bill today.
I've not seen the bill, so I can't comment on the bill, but it was interesting that Clara last week said that they were, and I credit them for being so open about it, that they had the potential now to lay off 700 staff. This is something that I've been thinking about since the week I got into this job and just looked at the horizon that I was stepping into. It is very clear that there was going to be major disruption. In my speech, I was aware in my speech that I focused on some of the more positive aspects that AI will play in the workforce, because productivity can be increased profoundly in areas that won't lead to layoffs and so forth. But it is very, very clear, and it would be naive of me to pretend that there aren't some sectors, subsectors and industries out there which, because of the nature of their employment and their workforce, won't have quite large-scale transformation and sometimes displacement. This is something that I'm working very closely with Angela Rayner, who heads up the relevant department here, and we are thinking very carefully, because I want this, if we get the chance to form a new government, I want us to be on the front foot on this. I want us to be very explicit, based on very careful negotiation, very careful consultation with industries, with businesses that are going to be affected, about how we can make this disruption a positive disruption for our economy and its workforces, and including areas and regions of the country. I'm very mindful of what happened in the 1980s. There was negative disruption in the workforce and a government that simply absented itself from any responsibility for shaping what came next. Well, we know, not in detail, because a lot of the impact and innovations haven't actually hit the market yet, but we do know the broad trends that are coming down the road, and we need to make sure that our economy is prepared for it. So we want to do so in a way, and I believe that we can do so in a way that is in partnership with the trade unions and employers, but it would be negligent of us to know that this potential disruption is coming down the line and not prepare our thinking on it. But again, this will be part of the announcements in the specific terms that we make in the run-up to the election, but we won't hide from this. These are the big issues that the country expects a potential incoming government to reconcile itself with, and I can assure you this is something that I'm paying a lot of thought to.
Let's take two questions. There's a lady at the back there, and there's a gentleman down here. The back up, yeah, that's it. And then we'll come to, in fact, let's take three. We'll take the lady in the blue jacket at the back as well.
Hi, it's Elizabeth Patterson from Seagate. I'm just interested, you talked about transparency and the government's approach to having AI be transparent. What would that look like? Would that be auditable AI, for example, whereby government may store the data from the AI for it to be audited? I'm just wondering what your viewpoint is there.
Well, right now it's about adhering to the current commitments that have already been made but aren't being adhered to. So, there is a framework out there which government has signed up to, but, out of the dozen or so government departments, only one department has reported once. So really, it's sticking to the currently available, the currently signed up to models. And incidentally, these are guidelines which many other businesses have been encouraged by government to sign up to as well. People, customers will increasingly want to know how AI is being used on their behalf, particularly where it affects them. And government, this is one of the areas where you don't have to legislate or regulate, you just have to do. So I just want to make sure that we are, right now, my commitment is to adhere to the currently signed up to standards. In the future, this technology is going to evolve. We are very ambitious, and I hope you got the scale of our ambition. This isn't just about, DSIT will play an active role in how we partner to get productivity tools right through our economy. Right now, today, 1 in 4 small businesses in America are currently using AI in their business. In Britain, half of small businesses aren't even aware really of AI and what it could do for their business and aren't even contemplating it. Now, that's not a criticism of those businesses. It is a criticism of our government to fail to start to bring our economy and modernize our economy. So DSIT will play a key role in this going forward. It will also play a key role in how we use and harness this technology, as I said in the speech, to transform the way that government transacts itself and the business of government itself and our public services. So what we are talking about is an evolution of the role of DSIT. But crucially, we have to start by reassuring the public that we're being transparent about what we'll be doing and have a public debate. I'm very struck by, I've been speaking to lots of predecessors because I take very seriously, ever since I've become an MP, I've taken very seriously learning and quite earnestly trying to learn the job. I want to be as good as I possibly can. So I've spoken to lots of previous ministers and secretaries of state. None of them, incidentally, have faced the challenge of digital transformation. The public service reform agenda of previous times was fundamentally different than it was now, and very much within the confines of the way the government is structured from top right the way through to delivering to citizens. But here we have a fundamentally different challenge, and we do have to reassure the public. One of the examples I came up across was the GM crop debate. At that time, if anyone here remembers it, then government took the decision that because GM, genetically modified crops, were so technical and scientific and nerdy, you couldn't possibly expect the public to really get it. So what they did was say, don't worry, we're going to consult with experts and we'll tell you. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but they came back and sort of announced that their review said it was safe, but didn't really explain the data and didn't talk down to the public. And the public just said no. And within just a couple of months, they'd lost the argument and suddenly legislated to ban GM crop even development and trialling and piloting in our country. And that ban still exists today. That's what happens when you lose an argument with the public, and that's what happens when you talk down to the public. And I think the lesson from that period, and several other instances as well, is that you always talk up to the public and you share as much data as you can, but find ways to make it accessible as possible. So that's going to be our approach. So we'll be
Franken crops, I think they were, yeah.
Yes.
So we're running a little short of time, so we'll have a question
I'll be
here,
quicker.
and we'll go straight to the question here as well. And if you could answer both, then that'd be, yeah.
Thanks. Hi, Claire Thorne, co-CEO of techUK, a tech careers inspiration charity, and venture partner at Deep Science Ventures. I think it's really interesting, and I think there's a big contrast to what we heard this morning from Secretary of State. Michelle said that we need to start early, we need meaningful career education, we need to be working in schools, and this is exactly what our charity does, but yet we have not seen this vision matched by the DfE or by DSIT. And we see the realities on the ground within the education sector. We see that sense of hopelessness that you talked about, Peter. We deem it the aspiration gap. This year, in February, for Safer Internet Day, we had 40,000 children join a Teams link with their teachers to hear from us about a lesson on Gen AI. And schools and teachers are desperate to understand how to teach with it and how to teach it. We haven't seen the cross-party working the cross-departmental working that you mentioned at the start of your speech from the current government. How are you planning to work, not just within DSIT, but across DFE as well, to fix the skills and the talent gap at a really early age?
Thank you. That's a great question. And then down here.
Thank you very much. Adi Holt from Form 1 Partners. We help small businesses grow and we help big businesses innovate. But I recognise the fear that you see in the media and the hyperbole around some of this stuff. But how much of that is driven by the requirement for those outfits to make money? Because what I see in the market is, frankly, talent, optimism, and opportunity. And what can we do to change that narrative? Because I believe that if we don't, then actually that narrative can drive negative thought in the population, and that can drive down the willingness to adopt some of these technologies.
Great question. Skills, cross-government working, and this virtuous circle going down. They're going the wrong way.
Well, we're in a sort of doom loop at the moment,
Yeah.
but not. You can't deny that there is pessimism out there. I mean, I hear it as well. I'm a constituency MP as well as somebody that's trying to. You know, I visit workplaces every week up and down the country, and it's articulated to me. You know, people do say, you know, I think my job might be going because of this, and people do pick up on it. We have to. We have to try and change the way that this is spoken about, but also reassure people because look, I'm not going to kid someone. You don't reassure people by lying to them, and we can't just turn the blind eye and be blindly optimistic about this in terms of, you know, it's all going to be fine if we just leave it alone. But we have to reassure people that the opportunity for, you know, lifelong learning is available. We've got to reassure people that where there is disruption, there is a plan. We will never ever, Labour will never abandon communities, and that's because it's not just lived experience. It was only 30 years ago that people in families will remember their parents and what they went through in the 80s, and these are inherited fears that some communities have about being abandoned when the economic purpose of a community goes, or a business, or a large employer, or so forth. So we need to make sure, because we have the huge benefit of knowledge about a disruption that's coming down the line. You know, for us to miss this and not to turn this into an opportunity would be an appalling abrogation of what government exists to do, in my view, certainly a progressive government. So, but this is something we are actively thinking about and aware of, and I hope that my words reassure. Sorry, the other one's skill.
It's the cross. Yeah. So on digital skills in particular, it's particularly bad, isn't it? You've got DFE, DSIT, you've got Cabinet Office, you've got I mean, DWP, everything involved. So
I've got an amazing shadow ministerial team in the Lords and in the Commons, and the brief is enormous. You know, it's everything from 5G rollout through to the space program and quantum fusion, you know, all these emerging technologies and AI, and the whole tech and legislative and regulatory landscape there. But one of the areas that I'm driving personally is the area that you've just described there. Keir, when he did this reshuffle, when you look at the 5 missions, when you look at the people that are leading on them, you know, we're broadly people who have a very shared vision for modern public services, a modernised welfare state. You know, for me, this is political as a progressive politician, because I care deeply and existentially about our welfare state. And when I see people interacting with commercial services, banking services, shopping services, travel services, using their phone, using apps, using digital technology, and how AI is powering the service user experience. Sometimes they don't even know it, but it is, to provide a much more rewarding, swift, efficient, effective, and sometimes exhilarating set of services for what were mundane operations, like buying tickets at a train station. No one's ever enjoyed doing that. But actually now you do it with an app and it tells you what platform the train's going to be on a day ahead, and it's right most of the time. So the longer we leave that gap as those sectors leap forward and the way people interact with their public services, which stay static, then I believe we're leaving our welfare state fundamentally exposed to another wave of populist attack, for which at some point it would be quite easy to stand up and say, the world's moved on, welfare state stuck in the past in an analog era, where people are still waiting for appointment notifications through Royal Mail. And my brother's a postman, so I have to be careful what I say here, but very often people are missing those things. The longer that happens, the more exposed we leave it. So this isn't a yes or no, shall we, shan't we, get this technology into the way we do public services. It is a yes, because it's the only way we save the welfare state. It's a yes, because it's the only way that we can tackle the huge waiting list, 7.7 million people. And it's a yes, because it's the only way that we can actually enhance people's welfare. So I am working extremely closely with all of the departmental leads, from health, education, welfare, and right the way through. And because that's a piece of work that Keir has asked us to do as a team. And you will see us at the point of an election, whether it be in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you will see us very prepared for exactly and precisely the challenges that you said, you outlined, and how we hit the ground running in terms of getting the government to where it needs to be on it, not just in your department for education, but right across the board. And it can only be done by working together. We have the relationships, and we realise, and I'll end because I know you're tapping your watch already. But and I know with Microsoft, he's tapping his watch. That's going to cost me. So let me just say this: countries like America have this period of renewal every 4 or 8 years, and you can sense the renewal at that point of election. You know, we in this country, if there is a change of government this year, it will be 14 years since the last change of government. Before that, 13 years. Before that, 18 years. So in the private conversations that I have with Keir and others in the Shadow Cabinet team, we are extremely aware of what a golden moment this is in our country. And we want to grab it with both hands. We want to be prepared. We want to be prepared to hit the ground running. We want to have a plan to get growth into our economy, to support businesses and charities out there with a government that is proactive, that is facing the future. And we know that we will have a period of time to present to the country new faces, new policies, new direction, and a new vision for our country. We're not just sitting back thinking it would be nice if we could do this, we'll figure it out when we get there. This is an essential opportunity, a golden opportunity, and all of us in that team want to grab it with both hands. And everything that you've just outlined there about potential and currently missed potential for empowering people who are using public services, whether it's health, education, or elsewhere, we just want to get cracking and deliver it. And I think the only way that we're going to excite people about it is by starting off with a totally fresh approach to all of it. And that's the opportunity we have. And that's something we're very aware is an opportunity that currently is on our shoulders. And we just want to get the chance to try our very best at it.
Well, on that very upbeat note, thank you very much for setting out so clearly what Labour Party would do for this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Kyle.